Imagine waking up every day to find the real estate market in your city is red hot, just like it was yesterday and the day before that. Sound familiar? Well, it's a bit like the movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray's character finds himself reliving the same day over and over and over again. But today, we're not talking about Puxatawny, Pennsylvania. We're talking about Calgary, Alberta. Just like how Toronto experienced an explosive real estate market a couple of years ago, Calgary is now caught in the same whirlwind. Every day, buyers and sellers and investors wake up to the same story. Escalating prices, bidding wars, and properties selling at lightning speed. So, let's rewind the clock and take a closer look at how Calgary's current real estate fever mirrors what Toronto went through not so long ago. We'll explore the factors driving this frenzy, the impact on residents, and what it means for the future.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe. I got you,
babe. Welcome everyone to this episode of Real Estate with Nicole. Today I have Carlin Lutzer. He is a real estate agent with CIR Realty. So Carlin prides himself on giving unwavering client satisfaction. He is transparent in his approach to real estate, and he really wants to guide his clients through the process to ensure that they have a smooth and successful transaction. He's also a reliable and trusted partner, and I'm really happy to have Carlin here on as a guest for this episode. This episode will be focused on the real estate market in Calgary. So welcome to Real Estate with Nicole, Carlin.
Thank you, Nicole. That was a very nice introduction. And I've been able to listen to your podcast a few times, and I think it's fantastic. You have a great personality. The way you interview and the way that you come across is very caring and kind. And no doubt that's why you've done so well in real estate yourself, is just that personality that comes across, even though we've never met face to face, just comes across when you're listening to the podcast. So great job on the podcast. It's great. I'm going to continue to listen to it, especially after we've met over the last couple of weeks here, and looking forward to dialoguing in the future with you.
Awesome. I look forward to it as well. And thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate it. So before we get started, I gave you, that introduction of Carlin as the real estate agent. Let's get a little bit deeper into why real estate? Why did you become a real estate agent? And why is the transparency, being that trusted and reliable partner, so important to you when you do business?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like I got into real estate. I was in oil and gas for numerous years. I was traveling. A lot of times there's so many families living in Calgary, an area where typically the husband travels in oil and gas and is gone for long periods of time. Well, when the kids started to come, obviously it's easier talking to your wife on the phone. And, in fact, many times we ended up talking more when I was on the road, because we'd be on the phone as opposed to being at home. So you get at home and all of a sudden, you got the kids, you got the busyness around. But once the kids started to show up, it made it very, very difficult to leave home. So I got into something that it was similar along the lines of what I was doing in oil and gas. And that was, it's called, I'm a land agent. So I had my land agent license. So I was meeting with farmers and negotiating values, market values of their property. If a pipeline was going to come across or a lease site was going to go on their land. So very similar to real estate. So it was a little bit of an easy transition when I was moving into real estate, because it was studying market values, market trends, what's going on, and what's the dollar value for their land. But I got into real estate because I really do like dealing with people. I like getting involved with people because, as you know, real estate, I always say business is business, but real estate is personal. And it becomes you walk through many different stresses with families as they're looking into their finances. Can we afford, and then all of a sudden you get to a point where, they've thought they've gone through the pre-approval process, and then they get there and they realize they can't because there's something on their credit, and you're feeling those things with them. And you're feeling the very same emotions that they're feeling as you're walking through the transaction, right? Are we going to get this property after we write the offer? So I got it because I do like dealing with people. I feel that I can deal with many different personality types, and also love looking at houses, love putting values on places, and just working with people in that, because it's a very, very big deal. And I think it's very important to have someone that they can trust, someone that isn't, going to tell them what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. Right.
And that is so true. It's having the empathy, I think, is so critical as a real estate agent. And you just describing that, because it is the biggest purchase in many people's lives. Maybe it's their first, second, third, but it's still the same kind of emotional impact, and having that sensitivity. And it's true. People, I also feel that same angst that my clients are feeling when they're going through it. So having that understanding is so important, and being able to have that trust, have somebody you can trust to go through that with you.
For sure. Absolutely. So no, it's been good, but obviously there's the highs and there's the lows of real estate.
Yes.
There's the times when you're on top of the world, but that comes crashing down, can come down pretty quickly, right? For you, when again, you're walking through clients and you're writing a deal, and then all of a sudden the deal falls apart for whatever reason. Right. And that's emotionally very difficult, not just for the buyers and the sellers, but for the realtor as well.
Exactly.
So
thank you for sharing that. It's very, very nice. And I think people get to really know a little bit more about you and why you do what you do. So thank you. So I know I invited you here, and I really wanted to talk about real estate in Calgary, getting your perspective. And before I get into that, I just wanted to share a few statistics, and you're probably well aware of it, but for just to set the basis, according to the 2023 Global Livability Index that's published, I believe, by The Economist, Canada was ranked number one again as the most desirable or livable country in the world. And as part of that, there were 3 cities that hit the top 10. There was Vancouver, that was number 5. Calgary, that was ranked number 7. And Toronto, that was came in at number 9. The one thing that we've been noticing, or I've noticed over the past few months, is that Calgary is basically exploding. And I think, you're probably at one of these points where you're at that high, or you're getting along that curve of activity within the market. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening on the ground from your perspective?
Yeah, Calgary just seems like it continues to grow. And I'm just guessing on this because I'm just going back in my memory as to when it was. But I think it was right around the year 2000, 2001, where we reached the million mark. And we were just like, oh my gosh, like we've reached 1 million, like we're there, right? But now, 24, 23 years later, we're now at 1.6 million, right? So Calgary is growing very, very quickly. I've heard some stats, and I'm not going to repeat the stats because I find them very hard to believe as to where they expect Calgary to be in the next 15, 20 years. And it's crazy. But
Repeat
again,
them.
those are
Repeat
just
them.
stats. Those are predictions,
Predictions.
right? And it's a number that I just can't even fathom. And the number was actually 10 million.
Wow.
I know. And I again,
Yes,
like,
that's
don't,
it. What's the context?
like,
Exactly. Yeah.
absolutely. And I just, because of the waves that I've seen in Calgary, right? We are riding oil and gas. There's so many different variables. Yes, we are diversifying inside of renewable resources, in technology sector, even in the aviation sector. We're seeing some advances here in Calgary. So, we are trying to get out of that. I know that Ontario just views us as a bunch of cowboys drilling oil and gas all the time, but it's really has diversified away from that, and we have to, because the world is changing. I don't think I think the need for oil and gas is going to be here for years, but those oil and gas companies are moving into greener energies and looking at new ways to diversify themselves, right? So that we're not just dependent on oil and gas. I think it was back in 2000, 2004, 5, when things started to crash again a little bit, and it was devastating to our real estate market. But the biggest thing is to get to that point where we can weather those storms, where it's not as big of a deal. Like, in no way was I intending on getting political in this
okay.
conversation.
Yeah.
But we look at what's going to transpire down in the States in November. And that has huge implications for not only us as Canadians, but Albertans. I don't know. I don't know which is the best thing for us. I think there's certainly negatives with, I'm not going to say names or whatever, but either parties, there's negatives, but on the same lines, there's positives with both, right? And so it's those type of things that everything, we're so contingent. And I think actually I kind of see it, they're not saying it in the news or whatever, but I feel that investors are taking a step back here in Alberta a little bit in the oil and gas industry, just because they're waiting what's going to happen in November.
And do you maybe, like, sort of digress, but do you think that maybe a lot of people, not just in Calgary or Alberta, but across all the provinces, maybe just are pausing a little bit or slowing down a little bit to see what's going to happen, where things are going to land, because there's ambiguity.
Absolutely. Yes. And that certainly is for the States as to what's going to happen there, but it's also what's going to happen north of the border here too, right? Like, I think where we're seeing a lot of people take a pause in the real estate world is because of those interest rates. Right now, they're locked in at a really good interest rate. Why would they go purchase a house that's worth more money and now they're paying more in interest rates? Why don't they just sit and wait? And we see this holding pattern, and that is affecting our market as well, because we're not seeing the same levels of inventory. Like, we're down 16.2% year over year from last year. With the inventory, people just, like, I had a conversation with a lady last night who, Carlin, we'd like to sell, but what are we going to do? Like, are we going to, we got a good interest rate right now. And then there's so many other variables as to, okay, we know that we could sell our house, and I think she was saying, 1.1 million. She goes, but what will we move into? And I said, well, are you in a position not to write an offer that's unconditional, that, and go over market value and all those things? There's so many different variables that are going on here right now. And it's just, I think you're right. I think in this market here, people are just kind of taking a step back and they're like, okay, let's ride this out. Let's see what interest rates are going to happen. When are they going to start going back down, or have we plateaued? I think we've plateaued. But they're estimating that in 2000, I believe 2025, they're hoping to see some major drops in the interest rates, right? And then I think we will start seeing those doors open up again with more inventory, and then more supply, less demand. We're not going to see the crazy market, right?
Okay, so that's what you're anticipating in that next year.
That's and that's just through talking through
Okay.
mortgage brokers and
Okay.
just trying to get a read as to what they're anticipating is going to transpire. So yeah.
Okay. That's
Have you heard the same thing?
Well, on a Toronto or GTA perspective, we see buyers on the sidelines again, most likely because of the interest rates, holding back to see what's going to happen. June 5th is a date that is in everybody's head. They're going to be watching closely. Inventory, it's picking up a little bit. We have been seeing some competing offers when a home is priced at at market. You might see it coming in, offers coming in at or just a little bit above. There's a few cases of bidding still happening, just depending on the area and for some of the more affordable properties. However, it's anticipated that once interest rates do come down, you might see a lot of buyers coming off the market, coming off the sidelines. And, with that, there's more competition because you don't necessarily have as many properties available for the demand that's there. And then we might see what had happened, in the prior year and a half or so. So that's that angst. So it's interesting to see that maybe people will come off the sidelines, but you still have some inventory that's there in Calgary. So you might not see, the bidding that you're currently seeing now.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. No, and this all started for us. This is going now into our third year that this has been like this.
Wow.
I remember when I first got a taste of it, I listed a place, 2.5 years ago, and it was, my client put a lot of work into the place. We listed it right at market value. Well, we had an offer that came in, and this is big for us. I don't know, and the offer was $100,000 over list price. And where this person was coming from they were coming from BC, so they were kind of like that was the beginning of seeing some of this migration from other provinces. People were seeing that they could, well, if I sold my house in BC or Ontario while the market was still high, I could put a lot of money in the bank and still, pay cash on my next property in Calgary or Alberta. And, they didn't really care if they went above market value because they could afford to do it. So why we're seeing such low inventory levels here is not only the interest rates, but it's the majority of people that are moving here don't have that luxury of just selling their property where, they've owned it for 10, 12 years in Ontario or BC, and they're coming in writing cash offers, unconditional, and majority of people have to write a financing condition. And that's where the panic sets in. Just like, well, we're going to go look at houses and we're going to write an offer, but we're going to lose out because I want it conditional to financing. And yes, like we would really like to have a home inspection too. We want to know what we're buying. But people are coming in, they're just like, no, we don't need any of that. Here's cash. You sign this, it's sold and well over list. Right. So yeah, it's as you know, this kind of market, like, and I know I don't want to come across, but it's not fun for a realtor. It's not fun for buyers. It's the sellers are sitting in the driver's seat. But if the sellers are like, they're laughing, but then are they going to be transitioning into buyers as soon as they sell? Right. And then they're going to be feeling all those stresses. So be really nice to find
Happy
a happy
medium.
medium with
Yes.
the market. Yeah, exactly. Because right now, like as of April, like we were sitting in Calgary at 0.94 months of supply.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you.
So that's quite low. You know, and then you got your surrounding areas where it's less because people want to be in Calgary, but 20 average 20 days on the market, right? You know, I'm starting to see if I see a house that's on the market and it's been on the market for 5 days, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with it? It's either overpriced or, you know, there's something wrong with it,
Right.
right? So
Right. So
yeah.
yeah, you're seeing what we saw. Like yeah, with the 5, 10, 15 days on the market, and then yeah. And then now, so it's one of
Yeah.
my buyers, it's interesting. Oh, this has been on the market for a month. And I go, yeah, but that's, 3 months is actually normal. 3 to plus months is a normal
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
When it was on
Yeah,
15
for
days, that
sure.
was like, high sellers market.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With people
Sure.
coming in and writing cash offers, etc., do you find that in terms of inventory, that maybe the more affordable homes are being, lack of a better word, gobbled up more so than the higher priced homes, and maybe that's making it a bit more challenging for people, who cannot afford more than a certain amount?
Absolutely. Like, you know, right now that $500,000 less market is crazy, right? And it's very hard to keep any inventory on the shelf, so to speak. You know, last year our condo market was basically not going anywhere. Nothing was really happening with our 2 bedroom apartments, you know, a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 baths, whatever. That was just kind of standing still for half of the year last year, 2023. And then all of a sudden, the last half of 2023, that market just took off because people were no longer able to get those, single family home for $500,000 or a little bit less. So they started to transition into the condo market. And that market now is, from last year at this time, you'd be looking at $250,000 for a 2 bedroom, 1 bath condo, and that's on the outskirts, that's right on the boundaries of Calgary, right? But now you're looking at 300 to 330 if it's really looks really good, right? And the condo fees aren't too high. So yeah, that market has just taken off because people are realizing, okay, we're out of the single family home, let's at least get our foot in the door, keep our foot in the door, whatever, and get a apartment style condo, right? So yeah, this isn't new. This has happened in Calgary before, but it hasn't happened to this. Where we're going into the third year and being consistent in there, because we typically do see those highs and lows, right? Um, and right now it's just mere supply and demand. The real estate market with the immigration, the new Canadians coming in, and really that's not affecting our real estate market a whole lot. It's affecting the rental market because new Canadians do have a hard time getting a mortgage if they need to or whatever. But it's that interprovincial growth that we're seeing that just keeps the pressure on, and the sense that people are kind of, things are really tight. Like there's so many things right across the board that we're so far away, but we do share so many different things, like the cost of living, obviously the inflation, the different taxations that we're seeing. Like I think I think it's right around 16 cents a liter that we're paying for on the carbon tax alone, opposed to all the other taxes on top of that, right? So it just feels that, yeah, like our market's strong, but fiscally people aren't doing well. And I think that's right across the board in Canada, right? Our wages haven't changed. They haven't changed with inflation. Not that we're necessarily expecting that, but we'd probably like to see a little bit more growth than what we're seeing, right, inside of our wages. So, yeah, I do see, there's a lot of stresses out there as Canadians right now, right?
Yeah, yeah. So with that, I'm just going to pivot a little bit.
Sure.
Given that, this is what we're seeing right now, what do you expect in saying that maybe the next 2 to 3 years? I know we're thinking, by about 2025 in Calgary, or even in general, the interest rates will start to drop, things might level out. But past that time horizon, what are you thinking the market might look like in Calgary? And and
Yeah.
and
Go
not
ahead,
even
sorry.
not even just from real estate perspective, but also, I know you mentioned, the economy is trying to diversify, and not be so reliant on oil, and just wanted to get your perspective on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we are diversifying, that's for sure. We are, and a lot of it is still in the energy sector though, right? We're looking at a lot of solar activity going on. I know the Alberta government kind of put the brakes on that, but they just basically wanted to kind of hit the brakes a little bit to ensure that the landowners were getting the proper deals, and protecting certain lands. And we were starting to build a lot of solar farms on land that could grow crops. And in my opinion, that just doesn't make sense. Like, we don't want to take away viable cropland. So I think they're shifting gears, but they are still really moving forward in that solar sector. I we're for years to come, we're still going to be very dependent on oil and gas in Calgary. I don't think it's not going to go away overnight. I think as they work on different technologies for different vehicles, and there's going to be some blips here and there, but Calgary, I do believe will once the world does wean itself off from oil and gas to some degree, I think Calgary will see a little bit of a blip. But once they get those other areas of technology and still continue to bring people in, but then there's so many, like, it's such a hard question, because
Yeah,
then there's
sorry.
so many different things that kind of balance themselves out as to, okay, now are we losing that tax base of getting the royalty monies of the oil and gas, and how does that affect everything else and all the other different sectors? But at the end of the day, I do think that people want to live. They like living in this area. It's not necessarily the weather. We had snow just a few days ago.
Oh,
Didn't
wow.
stay on the ground. Yes, I know, right? And but it's proximity to the mountains. It is very beautiful. So I do think we are moving in the right direction and trying to kind of change the way the world looks at us too, right? And that's through diversifying ourselves.
Okay, got it.
But where the market goes, I
And
honestly,
it's
I
complicated.
know it's so it is one of the, because like if oil and gas was going great guns, and that's where and I don't want to bring it up again, but that's where, because I remember what happened the last time when Trump got in, and all these rigs started moving south, right? Because they just opened up the floodgates. We have some very strong environmental restrictions here in Canada, which makes sense, right? We protect our environment, but once they opened things up, well, it was easier to get leases and pipelines in the ground there than it was here. So it's just where investors are going to go to the path of least resistance, right? So that's a huge factor for us.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? There's no crystal ball with real estate.
No, I
we
know,
can
I
we
know.
can
Yeah,
only look at trends, right? We can only look at
absolutely.
trends. So
Sorry, I
I
kind
love your
of,
response. No, I actually love your response,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's true. You can't. You just look at the trends, and you describe some of the trends that we kind of need to look at to see, what could be indicating factors of what may happen
absolutely. Well,
in the months
because
to come.
what we did start to see years ago when the market was growing and growing stronger, we saw so many people just say, you know what, I can't afford a house anymore here. I'm moving. And we did see a lot of people move to Saskatchewan. That wasn't just single family homes or acreage owners, but that was also farmers. Farmers were picking up. They were selling their land here, for, I don't remember exactly what it was, what they're selling their land per acre, but they were going to Saskatchewan and buying double the amount for the same value that they sold here in Alberta because their dollar went further. And that's just the cycle of real estate, right? And sometimes it's easier just kind of looking at the States and seeing what's going on in the migration, and you see all these people, all of a sudden everybody's flooding to Florida, and then everybody's flooding to Texas, and there's many different reasons, and a lot has to do with affordability, right? But then all these people move there and Florida is no longer affordable. Right. So
right.
then that ship sails and they look for another place to all migrate to.
Exactly.
So,
it's like,
yeah.
let's go to Toronto. Oh, Toronto's no longer affordable. Let's go to Calgary. Oh,
Yes, absolutely.
So let me ask you, for Saskatchewan, those individuals that, sold in Alberta and moved on to Saskatchewan, because, just from input from friends or other people, I understand Saskatchewan can be challenging. So I just was curious to understand if people kind of came back
Yeah.
to Alberta.
No, for sure. That's a great question. Well, I'm guilty. I was born and raised in Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
I moved out to Alberta in 1996. So kind of showing my gray hairs here now. I moved out 96, and in 2008, I got a job offer that took me back out to Saskatchewan and, back home. And I think a lot of people move out there and they get, they kind of miss Alberta when they get out there, right? They kind of realize that, and really, there is the affordability factor, right? Like Alberta still doesn't have a PST, right? Or a HST, or is that what you call it in Ontario?
HST. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
or GST.
Yes, we all have the GST for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then,
HST,
so we're at 5% and then the
mm-hmm.
HST. So there's still certain things that are cheaper out here, even though the value of the home might be more expensive in Alberta than it is Saskatchewan. But I do see a lot of people do end up coming back because they do, they're missing the job. The wages might not be as high in Saskatchewan. And so they do find their way back. And that's, to the point of people moving from Alberta, from Ontario and BC, especially people that are, retired or getting close to retirement. You basically, if you cut out that HST or the PST, you're giving yourself a little bit of a wage increase, so to speak. You're saving 6%, or, whatever it is. And is it 6% in Ontario?
No, we have 13%. It's HST. 13%, yeah.
And so 5 of that is the GST, right?
Yes, I believe so. I don't. I just know 13% of everything.
For sure. So I think that's also why we're seeing people move out here. It's not just the real estate market, but it's the cost of living as well is down because, you're not paying that extra tax on everything, right? So, but yeah. So I was guilty myself. I moved out there in 2008 and we moved back in 2010, just to kind of get back, because there is a good vibe here, right? There's a good feel in people moving forward, and there's not people go out there, and there's a lot of hardworking people here in Alberta. They want to get things done and they want to do it themselves, and there's that kind of mentality that you kind of get on and
Go get
pick
her.
up the vibe yourself. Absolutely. For sure.
No, a go get her.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I visited once with Banff area. Oh, not Banff. Yeah.
Jasper?
No, Banff area.
Banff. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
because
Okay.
there's the Banff Springs. There's the Banff Springs. I walked through that hotel. It was really nice up
Yes.
there, and then
Yeah.
climbed up that. Yeah, it's
And
beautiful
it's
there.
haunted? It's
No,
haunted.
it is.
It is.
Good thing I didn't know at the
I
time.
know. Yeah, there's one room that they have blocked off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fun. Now I need to like
Yeah. Go check it out.
No, I don't want to check it out.
Yeah.
No, but it's a gorgeous area. Everybody's friendly. It's a really nice location.
Yeah.
It's just breathtaking. Just even
Yeah.
to visit, much less
Absolutely.
live there. So
Yeah. No, on clear days we get to see the mountains every day. There's still snow in the mountains because anytime it's this cool and it rains here, it's snowing in the mountains, right? So yeah, it is a spectacular place to live. And even though we don't have a hockey NHL team yet in Calgary, it'd be nice to get one of those.
what do you mean?
Well, I think you people from Toronto know what I mean.
I can't say.
But
they didn't make. I'm sorry.
No,
But yeah, I know
no.
what you mean. Yes, like
Yes.
1967 for Toronto.
19 was it 1967? Is that or
Yeah, for Toronto, that's the last
for
time.
Toronto? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's too long.
It's sad, but anyway.
Yes, but
let's
there
not
is
go on
one
that.
team. There is one team from Alberta still in the playoffs. But
Yes, Edmonton and
yeah, but we're
sorry,
not cheering for
Connor
them.
McDavid.
No, we don't. We don't cheer for them.
You don't cheer for them at all?
No, there's a lot of
Fuck.
people that are from Edmonton that live here, but
Mhm.
yeah, a true blue Calgary Flames fan can't cheer for Edmonton.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. I won't mention it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. One last question for you today.
Absolutely.
So, in terms of the market and what's happening right now, what kind of strategies are you using just to help your clients with regards to managing and navigating this kind of, it's almost an ambiguous market. We know it's a seller's market, but there's so many different factors that are at play. So,
Absolutely. I'm working a lot with, as you know, my own database, and I love talking to friends and my database does become my friends, right? I like talking to them about real estate, and at the end of the day, I feel that I sometimes don't make as much money as I could in real estate because I tell them the truth. There was even the conversation I had yesterday with a client, like why are you thinking of moving? Like what are your goals? And it just wasn't the right thing for them to move, in my opinion. They might think different, and I say like, yeah, if you want to move, like, yeah, like I'll totally love to help you out, but right now it just doesn't seem to make sense. It seems like you're just looking to move for the sake of moving. Moving's expensive, right? So I think the biggest thing is just being honest with people, and I hope that kind of sticks. Like I had a client early on in the new year. We sold their place. They were looking at purchasing another place. They put in a market rate, list price offer, and he asked me, because it was going into multiple offers. He goes, "Do you think this was a good price?" And I said no. And he couldn't believe it. He was shocked. Like, what do you mean? Like, how, like, you're my realtor, and how can you? I say, it's not a good offer. And I said, and here's why. Here's where we need to be. If you want to win this, if you like this house, you need to come up to here. And they had the flexibility that they could. And so he kind of hung up the phone, and he's a little bit mad at me. And I felt bad that I was very blunt with him. But I said, at the end of the day, you're going to do this over and over again. This is your first time out writing an offer. We've gone through this many times with other clients. it could be 6, 7 times that we go through this whole thing until the last time where you get it. But if please take my advice, and let's write the offer. Let's bump it up to the point. And sure enough, we want it right now. If he was to buy that same house, it would be, I think we're probably about $40,000 more than we were in January, right? That place. So he was very happy. And it's just finding that fine line to be honest and not tell them what they want to hear. If I sit down and, we're at a listing presentation and they're asking me what they think my house is worth and they give me their value, and I never say no. I think we can get that, what you're thinking. So I do lose some listings as well, right? Just because I don't want to get into that. I've been there, done that as a new agent back in 13 years ago, and I don't want to get into that position with my clients. I'd much rather them not use me than to be mad at me and thinking that, well, I said that I could get you this price and I never did, right? So yeah, the strategies, then it's just also working my website, the leads that come on there. It's very, very competitive out here right now. I think I'll have to go back and look, but we're probably sitting at 5,500 realtors in Calgary and area.
Wow.
That's a lot of realtors.
Yes.
And you go up to Edmonton and they're probably about half that, right? So it's not as competitive there in the real estate world. Obviously you still got to find a way to get your name out there in Edmonton, but it's not as hard as it is in Calgary and area. So, but I think that also comes back to the cycles of oil and gas, them laying people off. And then what do people do when they lose their job? They go get their real estate license.
Oh, is that
right?
it? Okay. Got it.
Yeah, for sure. So
Carlin, thank you for sharing that. I really like that point with regards to just being very transparent with your clients with regards to pricing and competing offers, etc. Actually, I think that is the right way to go. And I've had similar clients where I've done the same thing. Given the same advice, and I said, well, you put that offer in, we're not going to get it. They put it in, and I said, this, and we're not going to get it because this is the price that we need to put in. Finally, after the second chance, they learned. But I think sometimes people need to see it and experience it first, and then after, then they learn and they go, okay, we understand how it goes.
Absolutely.
So no, I love that. Transparency is so important, and providing, you're always looking out for their best interest and letting them know, this is what the market is based on my experience, based on the information that I have available. This is, where things truly would sit. So
absolutely.
That sits with your transparency and providing, unwavering client service. So awesome, Carlin.
You bet. No, I appreciate your time today, and I appreciate you, and no doubt, how long have you had your license for? 3 years. Good for you. Yeah.
3 years.
That's awesome.
Yes. But my parents were in real estate, so it's not completely new to me. So, helping them with offers or open houses in terms of setting things up, like the marketing material, etc.
Absolutely. So you've been around it your entire life.
Yes. And I love homes and just helping people to find that place for themselves to settle in.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it is cool when you're showing some clients numerous places and you finally walk in, and I think everybody, once you've spent a lot of time, you walk into it, what they're looking for, and you can just kind of sense it that I think this might be the one, right?
Exactly.
And it's a very cool experience to experience that with people, and the excitement, once they do get the house, and possession day, and and then the invites afterwards. Oh, absolutely, for sure. No, it's awesome. It's a great thing when everything comes together.
Thank you so much, Carlin. I really appreciate you spending some time with me here today, and also just letting us know what's happening in Calgary, and giving us some of their insights in terms of
Absolutely.
real estate.
Absolutely. No, my pleasure, Nicole. Nice meeting you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in. The movie Groundhog Day teaches us that with perseverance and willingness to adapt, we, like Bill Murray's character, can eventually move forward to our own February 3rd, basically the next day. As my guest, Carlin Lutzer, alluded to, we cannot predict the market, but we can use our past experiences to understand trends and navigate successfully through the dynamic real estate landscape. If you're considering moving or investing out west, Calgary might be an attractive option. Remember, trends in the real estate market, as in life, often cycle. And now for a special newsflash. This year, Punxsutawney Phil and his mate Phyllis welcomed healthy twins about a month after Phil predicted an early spring. The twins, a girl named Sunny and a boy named Shadow, are doing well, and we wish them all the best. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your suggestions for future episodes. And one more favor, please share this podcast with a friend or family member. Thanks for listening.